History Museum opened up April 30th of this year after many years of planning and seeking space. And this really was the brainchild of the mayor as well as several other individuals here within the community. The mayor would often travel and had noticed that other small, communities had their own history museums and, had wonderful things inside that, dated way back and that told their stories, and he thought that, Orland Park should have its own story and place to share those stories. And so we are standing now in the old Village Hall, which is really the second Village Hall here in Orland Park. And we've been open now for a couple of months, and due to the generosity of individuals from the community, we were able to open and to be able to tell different stories of Orland Park's past. We have artifacts that date back to pre-settlement with Native American Indians. We've got artifacts that tell the agricultural history of Orland Park. We have artifacts that tell the business development, the economic development here in Orland, including Andrew Corporation, which generously or greatly increased the population here in Orland Park. We have artifacts on the different schools, as well as people can share their own individual collections. The mayor has loaned his own personal historical collections of the 1893 World's Fair, as well as some artifacts that date back to the Civil War.
What can folks expect to see and learn about the History Museum when they're visiting here?
Well, they get different stories, and then I allow them to share their own stories too, of them growing up here. Many have come back into the community because they've heard that the museum has opened, and they would tell their stories either from before Sandburg was even constructed, so they were at the high school over at Park, and they would have their entertainment be barn dances in the summertime, or drag racing up and down some of the dirt roads here in Orland Park. Others are able then to share their story even though they're only here a short time and they've seen some of the different changes that even have occurred within the last couple of years. Some, again, have shared their own personal collections with us. We have a current resident who's an artist, and he and his wife moved into Orland in the mid-'80s, and he began photographing some of our barns and silos, some of our older farm buildings, and then he would take those images and then he'd paint via watercolors. And so we have some of his paintings here on a rotating exhibit within the museum. And so he's showing us buildings that some of which don't even exist today. And he's capturing a moment in time, and now we're able then to share that then with the public. And then we have people who have grown up here, and they will share their stories of homes and businesses being constructed, and during those construction they would go out and they would dig up in the ground, and they'd find things like arrowheads and blades, and so some of those we have here as well within our museum exhibits, and so we're able to share those stories as well, just how they've uncovered history from Orland Park's past. So we have a model railroad display here within the museum because the Wabash, St. Louis, and Pacific Railroad came through Orland Park in 1881, and due to that it greatly increased the value of Orland Park to the rest of Illinois and Chicago. Our agricultural history utilized the railroad. We had two stops here within Orland Park. We had Sedgwick, which was the early name of Orland Park's stop here at 143rd Street, and then we had Alpine, which was out near 167th and 108th, in between that and Wolf Road. And so the farmers would load up their livestock, their grain, their milk production, their fruits, vegetables, and be able to take all their goods then to market in Chicago. And so the Wabash, St. Louis, and Pacific Railroad, we actually have items related to that within our display here, given by two different donors. One, we have Laura Kolpak, who's the daughter of Bill Vogel. We have two train cars sitting at 153rd Street Metro Station now today. And Bill was instrumental in bringing those here into Orland Park. They have been repainted. They say Wabash on them, and then they are there to, tell that story. From his collection, we have his lantern here, as well as an oil can and a coal bucket that they were used on the train cars here within the community. And another gentleman who actually worked on the railroad, his name is Rich Kukak. He's a former volunteer firefighter here in Orland Park, and he worked on the railroad as a youth, and so we have one of his lanterns. We also have a glass insulator that was used on top of the telegraph poles because the wires often were very hot and they needed to be insulated for protection, so we have a glass insulator, as well as an 1890s waybill, and you can view that waybill up close and see some of the early residents here in Orland Park, and then some of the goods that they were purchasing and how much they were purchased for. This is a working train model, so when kids come through, or any adults, they can feel free to press the button. The train goes around a couple of times before it stops. But this is here for Orland Park's early history. We're open to school groups. We're also open to senior groups. We just had a senior group from Marion Village come through this past Thursday, and they walked through the museum and they were able to listen to the stories and then share some of their own as well. So we're open for groups like that. Scouting groups are another group that we're able to host here as well. Any other organizations or businesses can come through here and organize their own tours.
Okay, and what are the hours of the museum?
Generally, we're open on Thursdays from 9 to 1, Saturdays 9 to 1, and then the second Sunday of the month from 12 until 3.
Okay, and if someone would like more information, there's a website or Facebook page they can...
We do have a Facebook page right now, so they just go to www.facebook/Orland Park History Museum, or they can call 708-873-1622. They can email us at museum@orlandpark.org.